The Centre's research approach is to try to take a holistic view of all risks in the environment that face organisations.
Helping them to sort of define quite hard, difficult to understand problems that are sort of emerging in their risk landscape.
The probabilities of certain events happening and their associated severity, where they might pop up and how they impact the economy and individual businesses.
And try to influence corporates and governments to either utilize the scenarios that we've created or to follow a similar process in their own development.
Perhaps the unique thing about what we do is we really have worked very hard through scenarios and then through modelling.
We're looking at threats, not just in isolation, but in how they interact with each other.
To compare the impacts across 20, 30, even 50 different threat types on one given system.
The Centre's research approach is to facilitate, meaningful discussion about emerging risks by turning them into scenarios.
Our signature research output is scenarios.
Scenarios are really our bread and butter.
A scenario is a way that you're using risk modeling.
A set of events that we follow that lead to a catastrophe.
To step aside from looking at what is likely to happen and start to think about all the possible range of things that could happen.
The first part is a narrative for a unlikely but still plausible event, catastrophic in nature. The second part is modelling the impact of that scenario on an industry or on an economy. And the third part of that is kind of discussion of mitigation and what a company or a country or an industry can do to mitigate its losses in the event of such a scenario.
Scenarios provide great narrative to understand complicated issues.
Because the dry facts are somehow emotionally unconvincing.
And that storytelling activity is really easy for different levels within a corporation or a government to kind of understand and grasp.
Everybody makes better, more informed decisions when they're making decisions about something they know about.
A non-biased way to discuss emerging risk, so nothing's off the table.
By challenging yourself with different ideas and assumptions, you will definitely get a better understanding of holistic risk.
And there's no responsibility for how things come out in the end.
The Sybil logic bomb.
The Bashi scenario.
The Sao Paulo pandemic.
The business blackout scenario.
The risk of cyberterrorism occurring in the next 3 to 5 years.
We've got a really diverse approach. We can think really creatively about these problems.
We elicit expert opinions within academia in each of the disciplines for the catastrophe scenarios.
We have a very multidisciplinary team.
I'm an economist,
Geographer,
Psychologist.
Data scientist.
Historian.
Engineer.
We've been working with retailers who are quite plastic intensive, and I think they're understanding that consumer preference is slowly shifting and what used to be acceptable is no longer possible.
We've worked with a leading insurer to help them optimize their financial portfolio.
We're trying to sort of motivate change within a business to take up sustainable practices, for example, because the alternative is a long-term risk.
One of the areas we've worked on is aggregation risk. So we've worked with insurers to try and understand how something like a solar storm can impact huge areas of their portfolio.
Most of the previous research focused on the trade war impact to a nation and how it affects or dents the GDP of China or the US or the UK or the EU. But rare research has been devoted to how a macroeconomic scenario like trade war could eventually impact individual business through multiple channels, either through the costs or the revenues.
The Cambridge Global Risk Index has been used in various city planning activities. Particularly, we've seen Manchester interact with us.
We worked with the Cabinet Office, for example, on defining the National Risk Index for the United Kingdom.
We've also seen the insurance industry use it in assessing exposure for different geographies from the different threats.
Due to our research, the UK now provides terrorism cover from losses derived from cyber-destructive events, and that, I believe, is a world first.
The interesting thing about this wasn't just that we could use this as a basis for catastrophe modelling for insurance in the cyberspace. The interesting thing was that corporates would pick this thing up and they'd read the first 2 pages and they would come back and say, that was brilliant. I've just put this in front of my risk team. We can't get this kind of information everywhere else. You've told us where to look.
The reason people come to us is because we provide independent and objective views of their own risk.
We're probably the world's leader in trying to put many risks on the table at the same time.
One of the centre's strengths is our ability to draw from a strong network of domain experts.
The Center for Risk Studies provides a really unique bridge between academia and industry.
Whether it's solar storm scientists from the British Antarctic Survey, white hat hackers, or members of the intelligence community, right through to researchers from central banks.
The centre is situated in the broader context of the whole University of Cambridge, and we capitalise on the academic resourcefulness.
We also have this incredible research group
We draw from a multitude of disciplines.
that gives us this unique perspective on risk.
We're able to respond to new research, to challenges, to new ideas very quickly.
We challenge our research partners to explore risks that they hadn't considered before.
We're energetic,
Think creatively.
Unbiased,
engaged,
robust,
Unafraid.
push boundaries.
and that's something that I think really makes us stand out in the crowd of risk research.
You've got to look beyond the traditional sort of horizon of your understanding of different risks.
But if you want to find out how to do it, you're going to have to talk to an organisation like ours.